It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of December 9th, 1994. With 4 movies to look at, let's just get right on into it, and we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Michael Douglas and Demi Moore starring in Barry Levinson's Disclosure, based off the novel by Michael Crichton, the author of Jurassic Park. So, like I said, this is based off of a book by Michael Crichton, and actually it was a book that was made, they actually greenlit the movie before the novel was even published. It actually came out in January of '94. The film came out in December, so the movie was already being made before the book was even released. So take that for what you will. But I mean, the idea is very interesting, especially nowadays. I mean, this is a story about a guy who is basically being sexually harassed by a woman, and it's usually the other way around. And in this case, the situation is Demi Moore seducing Michael Douglas, and to me, I think that's part of the problem with the movie, and it's why it doesn't really work all that well. It's because they have a good setup, they have a good idea to tell the story from a different angle, but the way it's the way it's presented that really does not work. I mean, yeah, Michael Douglas, who was in one of probably the most successful erotic thriller ever with Basic Instinct at the time. I mean, at the time it was, but I mean, you've got Demi Moore, one of the hottest actresses out there, and unfortunately, the setups in here really do not work whatsoever. She seduces him right as he gets there, and on the first night that she's there, she does the she what am I trying to say here? She sexually harasses him, and one day. One day is all it took, and you can make the argument that it's the former girlfriend. This is her way of getting revenge, but at the same time, man, your plan has to be a whole lot better than that, and that's really where the major flaws of the movie come into play here. Because I mean, the movie really, I think, is more focused on selling the sex appeal of both Michael Douglas and Demi Moore because they were both because he was in Basic Instinct, and she's one of the hottest actresses at the time right now. Right at that point, I mean, it never feels like anything that feels realistic, feels genuine. I mean, Roger Ebert, I think, said it best. The film's theme basically is a launch pad for sex scenes, and it feels like you're looking at a sharper image catalog that walks and talks. Those are Roger Ebert's words when he wrote the review for this on the Chicago Sun-Times, and he's absolutely right on it because it never feels like anything in this movie is important to what the book is based on. Like a whole idea, like the idea is very interesting. Like you don't ever usually hear stories about men who are getting sexually harassed by women. It's usually the other way around, and very once in a while you'll get a story like this. And here's a chance for the movie to actually kind of put that out in the open and say that, hey, this can happen the other way around, but it never really feels like that. It just feels like a TNA movie. It feels like a movie that's trying to be the next Basic Instinct, and I guess it kind of worked because it was one of the big successes of that year, and it was actually Barry Levinson's most successful film he had done after Good Morning Vietnam and Rain Man. He was on kind of a slump, but at least with the movies he made between those movies, those were better films. This movie's just really lackluster, and I think it's mostly because it doesn't go all the way with what they should be working with. It doesn't really tell a good story. It's not actually putting this main thing in focus. It's just basically trying to sell the sex appeal. And it just doesn't really work like that. And I'll be honest, I never read the book before, so I don't know if this is exactly how the book is being panned out. But one would think that the book was being more subtle with the ideas that they have in here instead of just throwing it out in the open like they do here. I mean, the movie lost me right away when Demi Moore starts harassing him on the first night she's there. It's just like, you did not waste any time with this whatsoever. You had no plan whatsoever and just saw him and just like, yeah, I'm going to fuck up your life. And it's just like, it just doesn't work. It's a film that had a lot of good intentions to it, but it just failed on so many levels. It's a really terrible movie. Disclosure, a really bad film. So with that said, let's move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is Wesley Snipes starring in the action thriller Drop Zone. Boy, John Badham really careened during the 1990s. I mean, he started the decade off pretty well with a couple of decent comedies, Burn on a Wire and The Hard Way, but after that, it was Point of No Return, another Stakeout, and this is his third bust in a row. This is not a very good movie. It's a movie that feels too much like Point Break, like it's trying to be another Point Break. We had a couple of these movies like this. We had Terminal Velocity in 94. I could have sworn we had one more, but I can't remember the other one. But But this movie really doesn't feel like the whole effort was there. I think they just wanted to do the crazy action stunts and forget the story altogether, because the story is not really all that great. And considering that this is written by one of the guys who will later go on to write High School Musical, that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about how bad this movie is. This feels like a film that they just put out because Wesley Snipes was one of the hot action actors at the time. Just give him a movie and he'll sell it, and that really doesn't work all the time. And this movie really does not work as well as I think they wanted it to. I mean, Gary Busey plays a stock villain. The woman in this, Yancy Butler from who would later be seen on Witchblade, she's not really doing a whole lot here. You got Michael Jeter in here, Malcolm Jamal Warner is in here. I mean, it just doesn't work. It's a movie that really, sometimes the action sequences could be nice, but honestly, the rest of the movie itself is just so bland, it's so mediocre, that there's no real effort going into this that makes you want to see it. It's a movie that's really boring, really lackluster, and just a movie that I think Wesley Snipes should have known better on. Actually, come to think of it, 1994 probably wasn't a good year for Wesley Snipes, because he started the year off with Sugar Hill. I'm trying to remember what else he was in. Let me see. I'm looking on Wikipedia right now. So, no, that was it. Just Sugar Hill and Drop Zone. So, yeah, 1994 was not a very good year for him, and Drop Zone was an example of that. So, with that said, let's move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is Federal Hill. This movie kind of reminded me of that movie Men of Respect with John Turturro that we looked at a couple years ago. It was a long, long time ago. It felt like that kind of a movie, and just like that movie, this movie does not look like it has anything that promising to it. I mean, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. Do you want to see what the Wikipedia page looks like? Check this out. That's it. That's all the Wikipedia pages for this movie. It's just like, it's a 1994 American drama film. It has these people involved in it. I should probably tell you right off the bat that this movie really isn't going to be anything all that memorable, and judging by that trailer, I can definitely see why. I mean, there was nothing in there that really looked all that interesting, unfortunately, so I haven't seen it, can't really comment on it too much, but considering that that's all you can get on Wikipedia, that's probably not a good sign for this movie, so that's Federal Hill. Let's move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is Century. Speaking of movies, we can barely find anything for them. I only found the movie itself on there, on YouTube, because I was trying to look for the trailer and it wasn't on there. Basically, the story is that Clive Owen stars as a 19th century Jewish doctor who, while studying at a research institute, discovers that an authoritarian doctor, played by Charles Dance, is sterilizing innocent women. Has Mark Strong in it, has Miranda Richardson, has Lena Headey in it, Fiona Walker. And that's really all I got for you, because I've never seen this movie. And again, kind of like with Federal Hill, if there's not really if there's not really a whole lot there on Wikipedia, then there probably isn't anything worthy about this movie in particular. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you on that one. So that is Century. So with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll look at the middle of December with 4 more movies, including Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels in the comedy Dumb and Dumber, Michael Keaton and Gina Davis starring in Speechless, Immortal Beloved, and also Jodie Foster in Nell. So we'll look at those 4 movies next time. Until then, though, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.